Hello everybody, this is Dave Smith again. I'm sort of doing an update this morning. Today is the 29th of November, Thanksgiving weekend. It's about almost 3 in the morning or so. Those of you that have watched the last episode, that would have been part 2 of episode 21. Where I was milling those long logs. I had a fall on the second day. I was just standing out in the middle of the log yard. I was chaining up one, I think it was the second long log that I'm cutting into the beams for the sawmill cover and work area. Just standing there, straight up, no brush, no limbs, nothing to hang you up, nothing, just stepping over a tiny log about this big or so. And I just fell from standing flat down onto the rock. It was a gravel road. I had my big pipe in my front pocket, and I hit that gravel, and man, I'll tell you, it didn't really affect me because I was able to finish out the rest of the day. But the next morning, wow, I couldn't even move something got tore up in there. And as soon as that sort of stopped hurting as much, my shoulder blade started hurting too. So anyway, I just thought, well, I'd just take a week or so and sit around by the wood stove and watch all those Firewood and sawmilling podcasts and the farming podcasts. I love those things. And then get back to it. Well, this is Thanksgiving weekend now, and I had planned on starting today, this morning, and it's still got me pretty bad. I don't know. I must have cracked something or broke something or whatever, but I'm not ready to work yet. So what I thought about doing, because all of you YouTubers, you know that you gotta keep putting content up on regular intervals, I guess, to click some algorithm, make it happy so more and more people can find your work and watch it and stuff like that. But I thought what I would do is, in lines with that, I thought I'd also explain what the hell happened to me. I'm not going to die, but man, life sucks, and it seems like it gets harder and harder to recover and get back to work. So I think I'm gonna sit out another week, and go at it again, give it another try. But it's basically okay. I'm able to walk around, still living on them 800 milligram ibuprofens. When I was in the Army, we called it Ranger candy. I lived off of those 800 milligrams, but we'll see what happens. In the meantime, I wanted to I think I'm up to almost 90 subscribers. There's been about 60 of you come into the channel in the last 28 days. I think that's how YouTube does it. They do everything in month-long deals unless you select otherwise. But I wanted to appreciate that. I produced a little short, right, from some old video from previous episodes, and thought I would try that out. And as soon as you look at some kind of YouTube video, YouTube starts sending you all these suggestions of more ways to create a better channel and all this kind of stuff. And mainly it's just a bunch of people that talk about how many millions of viewers they have and how many hundreds of thousands of dollars they earn. And if you do just what they say, you too will be rich. Well, I'm not after the money part. If I could get away with doing non-monetization and yet still be able to be found in searches, I would do that. This is just for me. There's no income that's wanted. I don't do donations and I don't, I don't sell anything for different manufacturers, but I was interested in improving the audience numbers just so people could see what I'm doing. And the theory is the more people that see, probably the more people with suggestions, so on and so on and so on. So that was why I was a little bit excited to see the particularly the last episode, part 2 of episode 21. It got quite a bit of views. I mean, for us little people. So, I was kind of excited about that, but that's all I will say about it. I'm not a type of guy, I almost have 500 subscribers. Can I get 3 more, and I'm not into that at all, and I'm also not really into short videos. As some of you notice, I figure you guys can figure out when you want to click the fast forward button, not me. So I don't think I'm going to do any more of this time lapse stuff. I'll let the user decide when they need to go forward or end watching the video. So, but anyway, that's what's going on. Give me another week or so for those that have signed on, subscribed, followed, whatever you do. Just give me another week or so. I can't believe that this hurts so much. And just what a stupid way to get hurt. I mean, just broad daylight, no limbs, no stumps, nothing to slip on, just stepping over a log, and that's what caused this. And it's like, you have got to be kidding me. So, that's the update for today, for this week. Perhaps if I'm feeling a little bit better, I might take some, when the sun comes up, and I'll take a ride around the place and maybe take some video of where I want to put the cabin, and, with the vegetation. With winter coming on, the leaves have gone, and maybe you can see a little bit better. We'll see how I feel, and I'll get out there and do that kind of thing. In the meantime, there's been a bunch of podcasts that I watch. I just wanted to talk a little bit about Firewood. I've never heard of kiln drying firewood before, until starting this YouTube thing and watching these YouTube videos. I've certainly heard of people that buy logs for sawmilling. They have a self-loading log truck come in, drop, a bunch of 40-footers or whatever lengths you guys buy wherever in the U.S. and Canada and other countries. But, it's certainly a business model, and I'm not one to start saying what's right and what's wrong, because that's, the first rule of business is never listen to somebody that's failed at it. I certainly haven't failed at firewood or logging or anything, but I just want to caution some of you guys, you're at the whims of a supplier. What quality of wood, certainly you get hooked up with a logger and you trust the guy, and they're sending you good logs. Same way with the sawmill people, they're sending you stuff without nails and everything else. And you're probably paying a pretty good price, and you're being you're being compensated for your time to take that piece of stick, that piece of wood, and carve it up into either beams or lumber, or in this case, my example, the firewood, you're cutting it up and splitting it and seasoning the stuff, and then you're selling it to somebody that needs to heat their homes, or whatever they're doing with it, cooking fires, to restaurants, that sort of thing. I wanted to just kind of caution people, when you're at the whims of a supplier, there's competition there. So you're already pinned up against the wall that you're going to have to pay for those logs, process them into sellable wood. And in order to do that, you're going to have to do more volume, right? So you sort of lean into an area where, I need to buy a processor. We got to get the processor, and so you go and you spend, and some of these things are like $30,000, and they cut your lengths of wood, and you can set it to 12 inches and 16 inches and 24 inches or whatever, and the thing drops down. And I notice a lot of these firewood videos, you're still messing with the wood, to get it straight, and then you got these wedge formations that basically just make kindling. And like I said, I have never seen firewood for sale that is like this big around. Unless it's like those little bundle things that, the city people buy on their way to the coast or whatever. And if that works for you, please keep doing it. I mean, don't listen to me, but it's just so fascinating to see how the industry has changed, and you've heard my thoughts on firewood anyway in previous episodes, but I heard, again, no names mentioned, because I certainly have a bunch of problems with what I'm doing, but there was a guy with a firewood podcast, and he just specifically said, there's no problem with getting up every 2 hours and feeding the stove. And, the conversation was about big wood or, little tiny wood. And it's like, yes, there is. I mean, that's the whole idea of hardwood. I mean, if that's all you have, is that in your region, you guys buy oak firewood as if it's just like campfire wood. I mean, so much volume is sold. So that's really great. But here on the West Coast, even though we have an abundance, hardwood is like a premium sellable product. And generally, what you do is that's your night wood. There's nobody to keep sticking wood in the fireplace to keep the house from freezing up when you're out working. Those of you with women or kids, or maybe an older parent that's living with you that can keep stuff in the stove and keep the house warm, that's great. But when you, like me, I live alone, you throw a couple of oak logs in the stove, and then you come back at 6 or 7 p.m., after you've done your working for the day, and you come home to a warm house, and you just throw some fur in there, get everything going again, and then pretty soon it's time for bed, and you throw another couple of big chunks of oak wood in there, or madrone, or not necessarily alder or maples or anything. They burn up pretty quick, but that's the whole idea. So watching these podcasts, I was like, that is crazy. It's, I don't know. So I'm giving my 2 or 3 cents worth, and it didn't cost you anything. You don't even have to click thumbs up, but just kind of think about your customers. I think a lot of it has to do with ease of handling. There was one podcaster, I said, well, he was stating that as long as you can grab firewood with one hand and toss it, it's a sellable item. It's easier for the people to get the wood. If that's what they're purchasing and they're happy with it, keep going with it. But, maybe kind of think about other people that are selling wood, that they buy hardwoods, for overnight, wood or during the day. Because it's, you go out and you work, you're not gone for 5 or 6 hours, you're gone for, 10 or 12. And you keep that fire going. You want to come home to a warm house. That's the whole idea of a warm house. Now, plenty of us have lived with firewood, and this so happens that one fire that night goes out and you wake up the next morning and you see your breath, it's like, that's not, that's not so that's not a good thing. So you build up a fire, but with these smaller chunks, they do season a lot faster. But most of the time, you can probably burn them green because they're so small. It's like kindling. And for that reason, I've nixed the whole idea of the firewood processor. I certainly don't purchase wood. I use my own. But I mean, even with my own wood, it would be too much of a cost. I mean, you're spending $30,000 on something that you can do, not as fast, but $30,000, and then plus you're buying logs. That doesn't leave a whole lot of room for some profit. So I just wanted people to kind of think about that, maybe from my perspective. And, maybe make a financial decision when you go forward with your business enterprise. But there's plenty of people out there doing it. And I hate to see, $30,000 for something that you can do with a wood splitter and, say a sawmill table. I mean, that's a significant savings to not purchase that item. Like I said, I'm not gonna waste my money. That's ridiculous, because now, it's like logging. Years ago I had the opportunity to put another side. A logging site is like another crew, another group of equipment for another logging job. So you got 2 or 3 sides running, simultaneously. The mills, they come around, just like the wood processor salespeople. They come around, they got this big orange, beautiful, no paint scrapes machines, and all you got to do is sign this line. You can pay whatever a month, but, what about your insurance? What about fuel? What about maintenance? But mainly, it's about that product that you're putting out. There's a couple of podcasts that I watch that they've got these things, they're like a splitting edge that they sit down in, whatever. It's like they push the log through there, and it's like nothing but kindling comes out. And they're doing like this white oak and red oak, and I haven't seen anybody cutting and splitting madrone out there. Boy, that's your premium wood, but it just produces so much junk. And they've got these little screen things that filters out the stuff, but it's just, just be careful what you're selling, to the people. And it's like somebody starts cutting and splitting really small wood, and 1 or 2 people like it, and then all of a sudden, that's what everybody's doing. And I just wanted to caution people. Just like I said, this didn't cost you anything. And I'm in a bad mood anyway because my chest hurts. But I just wanted to throw that out there. $30,000 is a lot of money to spend on something. A load of logs, 2,000 feet. Most long loggers, Well, you probably won't be doing a long logger. You probably be doing a self-loading log truck. So that's about maybe 2,100 feet, board feet. That's on a self-loading log truck. That's a couple $1,000. Of good 40s. Nice saw logs. The fuel, that takes for that guy to bring that stuff to you, that all starts adding up. And now you gotta increase your sales. You gotta start pushing that stuff out there. And and then, well, to do more volume, okay, the first thing, here comes the whatever firewood processor sales guy, and he's like, well, here you go, you for $100 a month, you can, here's this $30,000 processor, and in order to make the processor produce what it's supposed to do, so you can make that money up, you're going to have the equipment, like the saws that never break down, and a tractor that can lift this and push that and load that. You're going to end up at the whims of the sawmill, because like I said, those sawmills, they come around and say, if you were to buy a Medill, yarder and a carriage and, maybe a couple of loaders, we got some work for you. And it's like everybody signs that dotted line, and 6 months later, those equipment bills are still there. The insurance bills are still there. The crew that it takes to maintain all that is you still need it. They still need to be paid. And the mill, well, the wood is either on the next few jobs, it's either going to pay for it or it isn't. And I don't want to talk anybody out of starting an enterprise, because that's what we need to be doing. We need to create our own work and sell our products. So if that stuff is for you, go for it, man. And I love watching the videos. I like seeing it's cool as hell. But if you can get away with not doing that, please try that first. That's my, I'm 61 years old. I've done this a couple of years. I've chased it. I've chased it all. I've been there and I've done that. And that's what I've learned. And I'm passing that on. So that's it. You didn't have to pay a dime. So whatever you do, I wish you well. And I'm always around there watching your videos, and I chime in once in a while, a little bit of thumbs ups and some support comments that like that. But if you haven't started yet, think about what I've said. You don't want to be tied to the man, and it's real easy to buy stuff. It's a little harder to pay for it. And so that's really it. I don't know how many minutes I've gone on. I can't tell. I need to probably put my glasses on. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to close this off. If I later on this afternoon or later this morning when it gets light, if I feel up to it, I'll take a ride around, show some video of what's going on. I want to get started on this shack in the woods. It's time. I want it to be in and enjoy Christmas Eve, but it in the new cabin. But it's just not gonna. I don't see it happening. This Thanksgiving was sort of non-eventful. I spent most of the last week just sort of sitting around whining like some worthless worker, that has no life. Life has sucked, man. But I ended up just breaking into my ham Thanksgiving Eve, just kind of slice off a few slices and throw it in the microwave, and and that ended up being my Thanksgiving dinner, and it was delicious. And for Thanksgiving Day, I bought 2 apple pies, those Marie Callender apple pies, and that was my Thanksgiving dinner. I ate both of them, one on one day and the one the next day. So I had a good holiday. I hope everybody had a really good time with your families and all that. But you know, sometimes there's a benefit of being alone on a holiday. So anyway, I'm going to let you guys go. Again, thank you for all the views and the not so much comments this time. My short had a comment, I think it was. A guy signed on. But a lot of people subscribing. You know, I hope I don't disappoint you. There will be a building being built at some point. I swear, I promise. And we'll talk then. So give me another week or so, okay, guys? And I wish you all well. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm sweating on the old Oregon Ducks today with Washington. No offense to people in the state of Washington, but literally the worst team on the planet when it comes to NCAA football is the Washington Huskies. I think it's just a requirement that they have to be scum to be a Washington Husky. That's how much we hate them. Jokingly, of course. So, but I have a feeling that those little ducks with those cute little uniforms that they have, one for every game of the century, I have a feeling they're going to walk into Husky Stadium today and get their asses smoked. That's how I see it. I hope I'm wrong. So, let me sign off. I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks a lot again for all the views and the subscribes, and hopefully I won't disappoint you.